I know you're frustrated about school choice. You have limited options. That deadline may have already passed. You didn't even know it existed. Hey, thank you for joining us for another episode of the Falling for Learning podcast. Please hit the subscribe button. We're here for you. And you want to stick with this channel if you have teens and tweens, or you're a caregiver, right? You might be a parent, you might be a caregiver, and you want to know what to do to keep them on track for learning and to stay on track for success. Hit that subscribe button. We're going to keep you up to date and keep your kid on the path to success. You maybe be limited in your transportation options about how to get your kid to a school that is of quality. We're going to get into it today. This video was inspired partially by Masters University's YouTube channel. One of their videos is called, let me get it out. What was that name of that video? So Masters University's YouTube channel had wisdom for navigating K through 12 education. So this video is going to give us 3 tips on how to navigate K through 12 education. Specifically, we're going to talk about school choice. And those of us who are frustrated out there about the limited choices that you have. Okay, so there's limited choices, and what do you do? Now, the third top way to think about this are options, right? So maybe the deadline has passed, maybe it hasn't. It just depends on when you find this video or where you get into needing this. Now, it could be in the middle of the school year where you find, you know what, this school is not working for my child for whatever the reason is, right? There's a million reasons why it doesn't work. It's not a good fit for you and your child. And you figured that out. And now what are you going to do? So the options could be, or you're trying to reset at the beginning of the school year, or they're now moving to another level. They've been at a great elementary school, they've been a great middle school, now they're moving to high school or whatever. You're trying to figure out the best option for your kid. So this is what you need to think about are options. So now there are very formal options, such as applying for that charter school, getting in that lottery is what we have out here in California. You have a lottery system for getting into the charter school. There are also magnet programs, and so there's specialized schools for particular areas or even a particular school or a part of a school. Part of this school might be a magnet school that is for STEAM, science, technology, engineering, arts, mathematics. Sometimes there's an art magnet, it's just visual arts, performing arts. So there's different focus or foci, is the way you want to say it, for different types of school. Magnet schools in our area were established for integration, so to make sure there's more balance between the different ethnicities and races in a particular school system. So that may or may not be what works for you. There are schools of advanced studies where they have specialized programs for honor students, gifted students. Some things, like I said, are just choice. Like, I like art, my child likes art, let's see if we could get them into this school. Sometimes it is about what they have going for them. For example, they have been identified as gifted, so they may be eligible for a particular school. Sometimes they've been eligible for, they have a certain special education or IEP, individualized educational plan, that makes it important for them to go to a certain school to be a part of a certain program. But here's the number one thing about the option is also sometimes thinking outside that box. There are online and remote options. Schools have had that even before the pandemic, because if children have like a physical disability or something, then an option for them to have remote instruction. So that's been going on with most schools because they are there to serve the public. Of course, it became more popular once the pandemic hit. So the other thing that I want to think about outside of the box is sometimes you'll find that people make other choices to get their kid into a school that they like. If you have found that school that you like You may even try to see if there is a option for you to work there, right? If you, for whatever reason, are struggling or whatever, because at one point when I had my child, I was very much struggling financially. So me moving from one kind of low wage job to another wasn't a big deal. And if I could have gotten a job at a school, and we're all traveling in the same place. I live in the Southern California area, Los Angeles. So obviously traffic is an issue. If you don't know, you know. And if you know, you know. And so that was an issue. So at one point I did have my child go to the school where I went, and I chose to work there because it was a good fit for her. I believed at the time, right? And better option. And sometimes it's like the best option out of not so good options. So to give you some leverage when you're already frustrated is maybe even changing your job. If your job is easy to change, or even your job want to move to a side of the town that is easier to get to, it may be an option for you, depending on what you're doing career wise. It could work. I've also had people pay a particular family member to take their child to and from school, even though they didn't live in the area. Some schools have busing or even carpool networks. So that's a way to think outside of the box. Another way is to think about, in your family, is there someone who lives nearby that area? And you may be able to use their address. And this is just what I heard that some people do. It could work for you to get just a utility bill in your name for your child to go to that school. So again, I don't know. You have to do your research to see if that works for your area. It could, it may not work. Um, I've even heard of housekeepers or whatever working in an affluent home or whatever, and their child goes to that school, and that's their neighborhood school. Um, they qualify their child as that neighborhood school through the home that they clean or something like that. So again, think creatively out of the box. It it may work for you to leverage your options, because I know if you're frustrated, you don't know where to go, the deadlines have passed, you didn't think, you thought you were fine with school you had already, but then you find out it's not right. And then, so what do? So you start thinking creatively outside of the box. So the next thing, number two, you want to check that school environment. So let's say you think this is the right school, right? And if you have not seen, we had a podcast about avoiding, school choice mistakes. So you want to, we'll link that in the bio here and the summary of this YouTube video so that you can see more about that. So sometimes we think we found the right school, it happens, and then we find it's not. But one way to avoid that is going on campus, looking around, locating different people who might be a good fit. Um, for your child, meaning, do they have certain teachers that they could connect with, someone on campus? And oh, another really good video we have about this is the interview with Blaine Watson, and we'll link that into the summary as well. So we cover this topic in different ways to go, but when you're really frustrated, this video is good to help you kind of like unpack what you have going on and think about how you can work around what situation you're already in. Okay. So go around, look in campus, see if the campus is well kept, if it's neat, if it's clean. And of course, it's not going to be perfect, right? Like, be reasonable. It's not going to be a perfectly kept campus, but you see some systems in place. You see the way people interact with each other, the kids interact with each other, will give you a good feeling. You're not going to be able to see everything, and then see if that feels good for your child. And you may, if you're, I don't know what your schedule is, but maybe take time for your child to visit the school as well so they can get a feel for it. Okay, because your child is going to be interacting without you on the campus, and so get to see what they feel about it. Okay, and let me just look at my notes a little bit. Diversity. So this is a big thing. And so diversity could mean different things, but of course, we first of all think about ethnicity and race. Now, I have had different parents talk to me about kind of feeling guilty because they're like, the school is all a particular race or ethnicity, and my child is different from that. Is that racist or whatever? And here's the thing about that: when a school is overwhelmingly one particular ethnicity or race, and your child is different than that overwhelming majority, your child, it's a good chance they're going to have some challenges fitting in. And they even may have some self hatred that goes into that, where they want to kind of separate from their own home culture or ethnicity. So it's something to consider. Um, and I don't care how it falls, right? If you were, the one black child in a white school or a Latino school, the one a Latino child in an all white school, or whenever you see that you're the one white child, there's going to be some challenges there, right? And so look into it. Don't just think that because it has a good reputation or something like that, that's enough. It may not be enough to be a good fit for your child. The teachers may not be rooting for your child. There may be no one there to speak up in your child's behalf or be a safe place on campus for them. So think about the other part of diversity I want to think about is like, is it just a school that just has a lot of people that are just into sports, and your child is like not into sports at all? They're more artsy, and there's not a lot of art activities and support for that on the campus. And if that's the case, it may be a wrong fit for your child too, because that lack of activities and diversity. Okay, so really think about that, because it may clue you into why this is a fit or why it may not be a fit. And again, if you get your child to visit that campus with you, and it might be a couple of different campus visits, we'll see. It depends on what you have, what kind of flexibility and time you have. But those are things to give you a clue into how things are, to feel that atmosphere. And that's some good advice I got from some educators that I've worked with when my child was a kid. So, the final thing, the number one thing about addressing school choice is, it goes along right what I was saying, is thinking about, can you see your child fitting in here? Are your child's people there, right? And so this is really key. So, right, the kid's not going to get along with everybody on campus or whatever, but if they have a good friend group, if they have an activity that they're involved in and their friends come from that friend group, and it's a place there for them, right? Maybe there's a lot going on with sports, but there's this great art club of 10 kids that meet after school on Saturdays or Wednesday or whatever. And, and that's where you see your kid fitting in, then that's a good place for them, right? They don't need to have a million friends, be the most popular, but is there a are there other people that they can resonate with, that they can find community with on that campus? So before we were talking about more like adults, about the environment, but we also want to see that they have their little niche, their little place to be, their little place to eat with someone on campus. And that's a little bit harder to find, but a good clue are the activities that are available on campus. And is there flexibility with starting a type of activity on campus? Maybe they don't have it, but it's very common for people, children, and adults to be open to new clubs and activities on campus. So that's very, like, take a look. If that's something that could be done, let's do it. So remember, you could think outside of the box. You could do even like a hybrid school, right? So going back to like review what we went over, number three, look at your options and look out at some outside of the box options. There's independent schools, church schools, online schools, hybrid schools, and even your neighbor's school or your grandma's house or your dad's house or something like that, using that address and seeing if you can creatively be a part of a new type of school that way. Thinking about the environment, the adults that are on campus, the diversity that's on campus. It could be diversity in ethnicity or diversity in the type of activities that are promoted on the campus, um, which is really important to go around and feel it, go in person to feel it, not just what you heard somebody else say, because someone else could have had just a bad experience, and that's what's coloring what's going on with them, and it may be totally unrelated to what's going on with your child or what could happen with your child based on their personality or um, other social status, right? And then, is there a way for them to find their people on campus? They have a great, thriving choir program or robotics program that'd be perfect for your child, and your child feels like they could, there's a group of people or community that they could resonate with on campus and feel safe and feel comfortable and find community. So, those are the tips for addressing school choice frustration, thinking outside of the box, how to get to the bottom of if this is the right school for you or not. And if you like this, right, link into uh, the other. This is a whole playlist on the types of school choice options and ideas and resources involving that. And hit that like button. Thank you so much for joining us and have a great week.